Welcome to Your Healthy Kitchen from YRMC.
Welcome to Your Healthy Kitchen. I'm your host, Rita Carey Rubin. You know, I was at the farmer's market a few weekends ago, filling my basket with some beautiful winter roots and greens, when a fellow shopper commented on his really bad childhood memory of eating mushy, waterlogged mashed rutabagas. So it really wasn't a great memory, and I really couldn't blame him from steering clear of rutabagas as soon as he was able. He was actually really quite traumatized. But of course, I also couldn't resist doing a video devoted to these amazingly versatile and nutritious roots that are really quite delicious when you know how to cook them. And so, my ode to rutabagas, or rutabagels, as they're sometimes called in my house. So rutabagels look a bit like turnips, with a purplish top, but they differ in the color below the top. So turnips are really pretty white, and rutabagas have a creamier colored flesh. Botanically, rutabagas are a cross between a turnip and a wild cabbage, and they range in size from small to the size of a softball, or even larger, and are sometimes covered in a protective wax to keep them from drying out. So if I buy rutabagas in the supermarket, I actually look for the smaller ones, as they seem to be a little sweeter and are often not coated in wax, which may indicate they're also fresher. However, my favorite place to buy rutabagas in the winter is actually at the Prescott Farmers Market, where I know they're fresh and wonderfully sweet. So rutabagas are really versatile, and they can almost always serve as a nutritious stand-in for potatoes. And when compared to potatoes, rutabagas provide half the calories, half the carbs, and 4 times the fiber. And they also contain much more vitamin C, magnesium, calcium, and B vitamins. And rutabagas store really well, and they'll keep fresh for many weeks in the refrigerator if you just place them in a loose plastic bag. So what to do with these underappreciated roots? Well, I especially like roasting rutabagas with other root vegetables like carrots or sweet potatoes. And like the other root vegetables, rutabagas take on a wonderfully sweet caramelized flavor when they're slow roasted in the oven, and it's really my favorite way of preparing them. And you can eat your roasted rutabagas and your other roasted veggies as a side dish, tossed with a little bit of pesto maybe, or you can toss your roasted roots in a winter salad or add them to soup. So check out our roasted root vegetable soup video to see how to roast rutabagas along with carrots and parsnips and another unusual winter vegetable, celery root. So just go to yrmc.org, click on Health Connect, and follow the link to Your Healthy Kitchen to view the video and download the recipe. So you can also saute rutabagas just as you would potatoes to make some healthy hash browns. And this goes out to that traumatized fellow at the farmer's market. You can really make a delicious rutabaga mash. So let's start with our rutabaga hash browns. So the recipe that I'll use today is adapted from this cookbook. It's called Roots. It's by Diane Morgan, and it's just a very fun cookbook. She has these amazingly delicious and creative ways to prepare all different kinds of root vegetables, including rutabagas. And there's actually even a recipe in there for a rutabaga apple pie, which I haven't tried yet, but I will. So to start our hash browns, I've got a nice cast iron skillet here. It's heating on medium-high heat. And if you've ever cooked with cast iron before, you know that it holds heat really well. It's really great for browning things like potatoes, and today, in this case, rutabagas. So got some coconut oil in there, and I'll start by adding some simple sliced button mushrooms. So they're a nice sizzle. And I'll throw in just a pinch of salt and a little ground pepper. We'll just let these mushrooms sit for a few minutes, and and sear. If you don't bother them too much, they'll brown really nicely. And so this is adapted from Diane Morgan's recipe. So her recipe starts with sautéing up a bunch of bacon, and I know lots of folks like bacon, but it really pretty much negates all the healthy aspects of the rutabagas and the dish. So we're going to substitute the mushrooms for the bacon. And mushrooms are actually pretty cool in that when you brown them, they actually add a real meaty flavor to the dish, and a flavor that we call umami. So we'll let our mushrooms brown a bit, usually 2 or 3 minutes on medium-high heat so that they get that nice color. So while they're browning, we'll prepare some of the other ingredients for our hash browns. So I have some rutabagas that are already diced up a bit, and I think I'll use this little guy because the color of the flesh is a little bit different. So with rutabagas, you'll sometimes see some that have a whiter interior and some that are a little creamier, but it's still a rutabaga. And so rutabagas have a tough skin, so you always want to peel them before you eat them. And you just peel them like a potato. And this one's pretty easy to peel. But the skin is, oh gosh, about 1/4 inch thick, so not very pleasant to eat. So we'll cut all of that off. And, I mean, this even looks like a potato here. So we'll just cut it into some lengths here. And then dice. Got about 1/2 inch dice or so. The smaller your dice, the faster the rutabagas will cook. So now if you've got bigger chunks in there, it'll take a little longer to cook for you. And rutabagas, when they're cooked, take on this really sweet flavor. And they just a really slight flavor of, tastes a little bit like cabbages, a little bit like turnips. But as they cook, they really sweeten up, and those other flavors diminish quite a bit. Okay, so we've got rutabagas, and let's see how our mushrooms are doing. Oh, they're browning nicely. Okay. Good. We'll let those cook down a little bit more. So you actually want those to be pretty much done before you add your other ingredients. So in addition to adding rutabagas to the mushrooms, we'll also add a diced onion, which I have here, and some other ingredients which we'll add later on as the rutabagas cook down. So we'll add some Anaheim chilies, or actually you could use any kind of green chili you'd like here. If you want something with a little spice, use a spicier chili. Anaheims are pretty mild. At the farmer's market these days, there's also, gosh, lots of different types of chilies. Sugar chilies, saguaro chilies. So this would be a great dish to experiment with different flavors. And add as much chili, of course, as you'd like. So I really just rough chop this guy. And it will be added towards the end of the cooking process, so it will still be a little crunchy. So keep that in mind when you're chopping and decide how big you want those chili pieces to be. Keep an eye on my mushrooms. And Anaheims tend to be sweet. Sometimes I'll get one that's a little spicy. This one actually smells like it's a little spicy. So that'll be nice. So that's probably good. And then the other thing we'll add to the hash is some sliced fennel. And you can use, if you don't have fennel or you don't care for fennel, you could use celery in this recipe. But fennel actually goes really well with hash browns, with either potatoes or rutabagas. If you eat sausages, you probably know that some sausages have fennel seed as a flavoring, so it's actually a really wonderful flavoring, just slightly like licorice, a little bit sweet. So when you cut the fennel root in half, there's actually a little bit of a core in there. So I am going to cut this guy in half and then just cut the core out, which is a little too tough to eat. And then we'll just slice it like celery. And again, so this will go in at the end of the cooking process. So I'll cut the pieces fairly thin here. So you'll get a little bit of crunch in your hash browns. So that's probably good. So looks like our mushrooms are doing great. So I'm going to add the rutabagas. And some of our onions. We'll just stir that around just to heat it up and make sure everything's coated with a little bit of oil. You could also add another little bit of salt and pepper. You know, I like to add seasoning as I go when I cook, especially salt, because if you add little bits along the way, a little bit in the beginning, a little in the middle, you may not add any more at the end. We tend to use more salt if we haven't used it at all in the cooking process, and if you add it at the end, you tend to need more salt to flavor your food. So let's let these guys cook for a while. And while that's cooking, we'll make our Rutabaga Mash. So I actually like the flavor of rutabagas. They taste a little turnipy, but I often just steam rutabagas at home and then mash them up with a little salt and pepper and some butter or a little bit of olive oil, and I just love them that way. But rutabagas also mash up well with other roots like carrots and different types of potatoes. So I've got for our rutabaga mash today, I've got some steamed rutabagas and steamed red skin potatoes. And I've kept the skins on because, as you know, when you keep the skins on fruits and veggies, the fiber is there and all those nutrients are there. It's much more nutritious that way. So just steam your rutabagas and your red potatoes until they're pretty soft. And then I just mash them with a potato masher. I like mashed potatoes and things like that. I like it kind of more of a rustic mash. But you could throw these, if you have a KitchenAid, you could throw it in a KitchenAid, mash it up that way. Or if you like smoother mashed potatoes, you could just throw some rutabagas in with your regular potatoes and blend it up in a food processor. And what's neat about blending the rutabagas with the potatoes is the potatoes mellow out the flavor of the rutabagas a little bit. So mellows out that turnipy flavor. And the rutabagas add a more interesting flavor dimension to the potatoes, and a lot more nutrients and fiber. So it's a really nice combination. So let's give these guys a stir. And once your hash has heated up pretty well, we actually cook it cover it up and cook it. So it will steam and brown at the same time. And I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit so it'll cook a little bit faster. So for our mash, so what I add is actually really simple. You could just keep your mash like this. Add again a little olive oil or a little butter and salt and pepper, and it would taste great. I actually like to add a little plain yogurt, a couple tablespoons of plain yogurt. It adds a really a nice tart and sweet flavor to the mash. We'll throw in a little bit of salt and pepper. Or a lot of pepper. That's the way I like them. And then a special ingredient that goes really well and makes all the difference in this rutabaga mash is some roasted garlic. So there's lots of ways to roast garlic. You can roast it in the oven, or you can actually roast it on the stovetop. And this is garlic that I roasted on the stovetop. It takes about 30 minutes. And all you do is take some peeled, fresh garlic, cloves of garlic, as many as you like. Actually, this is great. Just do up a bunch. You could take 3 or 4 whole heads of garlic and peel them and roast them all at the same time, because the roasted garlic will last for a couple weeks in the fridge, and you can add it to all sorts of dishes. You could throw some in your rutabaga hash, but it goes well in sauces with roasted veggies. So it's a great thing to have around. And so to roast it on the stovetop, you just take your garlic cloves, and then I would pour enough olive oil in the skillet to completely cover the cloves of garlic, and then set it on medium-low, like a little bit of a simmer. Get it to simmer, to start to bubble a little bit, and then turn the heat down really low, and let it sit on your stovetop for about 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, it'll start to turn. It'll turn brown like this, nice and caramelized and sweet. And if you've never tried roasted garlic, it's really a treat. It sweetens, just like when you roast other foods, other vegetables. The garlic sweetens quite a bit, and that sharp garlicky bite is removed from the garlic. It just tastes wonderful. So I'm going to just mash these garlic cloves. See how soft they are? So when you roast the garlic, it just gets really squishy. So we'll just mash this guy up, and we'll throw it in to our rutabaga mixture here. And another cool thing about preparing or roasting your garlic on the stovetop in oil is that the oil that's left over, you can store. I like to store it in the fridge. You can store it and use it in your cooking with any other way you use olive oil, except it has a really nice garlicky flavor. So I'll add just a little bit of this to our rutabaga mash. Just increase the deliciousness factor here a little bit. So rutabaga mash, just a little bit of rutabagas, red potatoes, plain yogurt. You could use a little sour cream if you'd like, and that roasted garlic and salt and pepper. We'll put a little It's a great side dish. It's a little healthier than just plain old mashed potatoes. Lots more fiber, a little bit less carbohydrate. Lots more flavor. I think way more flavorful than just regular mashed potatoes. There you go. So let's check on our hash here. So you can see how it's starting to brown. It smells really yummy with those onions and those mushrooms. It's got a little ways to cook, but let's just add these guys in now. So for lots of color, throw in those chilies and your celery or your fennel. And then you can top it off with some chopped parsley. Or if you're using fennel, usually when you buy fennel, it comes with its tops attached. So those really pretty feathery green tops are great seasoning, especially when you have the fennel is in the dish. So we'll just chop up some fennel tops. And throw it in. So there you go. Isn't that beautiful? So there are actually lots of other ways to prepare rutabagas. So you can put them in a gratin or bake them in a pie. You can cook them in a slow-cooked stew and even eat them as oven-baked fries. And as always, you can see all of our videos and download recipes at yrmc.org. There's also a link for tips on roasting garlic. Just click on Health Connect and follow the link to your healthy kitchen. And to the fellow in the farmer's market or at the farmer's market, these aren't your mama's rutabagas. We'll see you soon.